This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow, log, and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at talkmusiccity.com. That's questions at talkmusiccity.com.
Monty!
Carey Ann, it's been a little while since we've had the privilege, but I'm so excited to introduce to you today a guy who I was just, talking earlier that this is one of the brightest minds in the real estate industry.
I love that.
And the wittiest as well.
So good.
Judson Veach. Welcome to the crowd, brother.
You've oversold it already. Good.
No pressure there now, huh?
Yeah, all right. We'll see.
Yeah, so Judson is one of our awesome members at Realty One Group Music City. I mean it, Judson. You always, every time I talk with you, I walk away with, I feel like, okay, here's a really thoughtful guy who's really not just another smiling face at Realty One Group Music City, but somebody who is intentional in his behavior. He's developing a following of consumers that have know, like, and trust him at a high level. And part of the reason for that, I was just sharing, he writes his own email monthly. Is it monthly or is it
monthly?
Monthly. Yep. I can't imagine doing something that significant any more than once a month. It's just incredible. But Justin, before we get into why we should listen to our viewers should listen to what you might have to share, tell us a little bit more about you. What did you do before real estate? How come real estate? Tell us a little bit about you, would you?
Well, like most people, I used to be a professional ballet dancer.
He's a comedian too. Love it.
No, but this is true.
Oh, no, wait, really?
It's true.
I'm not pulling your leg.
Oh my God. Do you wear a ballerina?
I was.
Oh my God,
That's what brought me to Nashville. I used to dance for the Nashville Ballet.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. Not just a pretty face. Talent. No. So I did that for 8 years. Moved here in 2010. Have a great community through that.
Yeah. Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio, yeah.
So
Midwestern work ethic.
Yeah. And then briefly lived in New York City, where I trained for about a year there. And then had the opportunity to come to Nashville, dance for the Nashville Ballet. Met my wife. She's a ballerina as well.
Oh, wow.
So good for me.
Yeah.
And
so you guys just walk around the house like this all the time?
You might be signing you up.
Oh, we know Monty can dance.
Carey Ann's a dancer as well.
No, Monty signed me up to dance. Yeah. So I'm a wedding dancer, like a wedding singer. I'm a wedding dancer type of thing.
Yeah. No, she did a great job.
And then he both sent me into ballroom dancing. So it was a good time.
We both danced for the...
Nashville Stars concept.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for an amazing charity.
The Nashville Stars, yeah. Or the Nashville...
Feed American First.
Right, Feed American First, but it was called the...
Dancing with the Nashville Stars.
Dancing with the Nashville Stars.
Like
there's what it was. Okay, anyhow.
It was memorable, clearly.
That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
It was. Wow. I was all about elongating all things. you know that. It's like,
but
you're trying to pull from your back.
She changed outfits in the middle of the floor as well.
I'm a little extreme, yeah.
She went from...
Usually we do it backstage, but I don't know what kind of show you're doing. All right.
Too funny. Hey, Jim, can you turn this up for me? Thank you so much. But yeah, so that's amazing. So you made it to Nashville, which I love those stories because music brought me to Nashville. So there's always something that brings you here, and then you fall into a really amazing career. So tell us the story about ballet dancing to real estate.
Well, it was very intentional. I was driving for Uber after I'd retired, and a gentleman in the back seat said, "You ever thought about being a loan officer?"
Oh, okay.
And I said, "What is that?" And so I took a meeting with him, and I was like, "That seems really boring, but maybe I could make."
Careful now, she's the queen of loan officers.
That's okay.
So she knows.
I make it fun.
But no, I said, it seems like there could be a path on the other side of that transaction that I could be good at. So then I explored that a little bit and talked to people I know, talked to our real estate agent. And, but yeah, let's try it. And I tried it, and when I was in real estate class, that was the week I found out my wife was pregnant with our daughter, so our first kid.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess I have to do good.
I have to do good.
So That's how.
That's a good observation when you find that out. But but everybody needs motivation. Back in the day when I was a broker with Remax, the grand poobah of that company at the time said, "Hey, you want your agents successful? Tell them to go have a baby or buy a new car." I leaned harder on the new car, than having the baby. But I think the baby part probably worked well for you.
Harder to sell the baby in a pinch. So
Hey, I think you have another career too if real estate doesn't work, or do that on the side too for more.
The thing about it is, Carey Ann, you know this, and Jim, you know this, and Judson, you certainly know this. But to be in real estate or anywhere near it, you do have to have a good sense of humor. You really do. You got to learn how to roll with the punches because you're not sure. The only thing consistent is change, and boy, do we know that. So tell us. So what happened then? You're in the back seat of an Uber car. You decide to maybe that's a good idea to get into real estate. Tell us about, because right now I don't know how long have you been in the business.
5-ish years.
It's been 5 years. Okay.
Nice.
Well, you've been with us for
change,
almost half of that time, and I've not seen somebody go from the place you were to the place you are. Can you, before we get done today, I want you to share about that because, we always try to come from a place of abundance. Judson, you know that. We try to share best practices. We try to encourage. This is directed to other real estate professionals, and unlike what some folks believe out there, that keep their secrets, their best practices to their chest, I believe that there's enough for all of us here, especially as the market gets tougher and there's fewer of all of us, and that's just a reality of the situation. Don't wish bad on anybody, but we do try to come from a place of contribution and not just of survival. And so I really, before we're done here today, I want you to tell us what you would do if you were getting into business now, knowing what you know now, because you're a student of the business, I am convinced, because I have had some really, really very intentional conversations with you that I'm thinking, holy cow, with my 39 years, if I knew that at that level in the business, so I'd probably know what I'm doing today instead of still figuring it out.
I always get curious because I look for athletes, which I would put dancing as kind of an athlete, right? So you're trained, you're used to training, you're used to learning all the things, different moves, et cetera. Do you think that previous world has anything to do with your ability to want to absorb more and, learn where you speak of success leaves clues, right? So if you see someone else doing a dance move, better than you follow that, suit, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Everything's going to be easier than that. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do. I mean, in terms of physical activities, I can only compare it to like golf because it's technical, deeply technical, but it's also...
It's got to be a lot more difficult than golf.
I don't know. If you've golfed with me, you'd say golf's pretty hard. But it is, it's so everything's easier than that. So, if I did that, I'll figure this out, right? But it's different. And, you're talking about how I started out being really bad. Because I went from doing
most of us do
a silent art form where it's like you're not allowed to talk to be like, now, what do you have to say? I was like, not a lot.
Wow, right? I never thought of that before. It's a silent art
form.
Wow.
Dance, yeah.
So I can't dance you to figure out how we're doing it. So I wasn't good. First 6 months, I didn't do any business. I think a lot of people have a similar experience. So it's not super unusual, but I did feel bad about myself. I felt like I stink, right?
Right.
Finally, you're probably pretty good at your trade, weren't you?
I'm thought guessing. I was okay. Yeah. I got good too by the end. I felt like I was leaving at the top of my game. I didn't have to retire. I was young to retire, but I wanted to do something else. And so it was a kind of that dark period when you start it. And I think a lot of people go, oh, well, I'm obviously not good at this. I'm going to quit and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. That's why 87% of the people do before the third year.
Yeah, and I was like, well, good. 87%. I don't feel so bad about that now. I'll quit like everybody else. But I managed to scrape together a couple of clients at the beginning, and you could do a whole series of podcasts on how to get your first client. But I think what you're curious about is like, how do you go from I can kind of do this a little to like now it actually works and this is my job. And that was also not intentional. I know you keep saying how intentional I am. I think I was accidentally successful, but for the right reasons. And when I look back, I go, this is why it worked. But that was not what I was trying to do. When you start in this business, there's a real cultural bubble. It's like the hustle culture, right? Of like, I'm going to build my business. I'm going to reach my dreams. I'm going to grow and I'm going to succeed. And that makes you, I think, for me it did, really focus on me and my goals. I have my business and I'm going to succeed and I'm going to make money. That was not a good mindset for me to be in to help people in their transaction. And I slowly figured out, okay, how do I let go of my outcome for me? And when I really focused on what do my clients need not to be successful in the transaction, need right now. Are you scared? Are you doing something new? Are you doing something difficult? Are you doing something you don't want to be doing? Well, I can add value not by sending you 7 ways to manicure your lawn. I'm going to be somebody who's a stable, calm presence in your life. They will wrap themselves around you from there. You know, nobody wants to be in a transaction with somebody who's thinking about, oh, well, I'm thinking about my business today. That's not a great way to get up and go to work. So when I did that, not through any intention, I just sort of started to feel empathetic toward all of the calamities that were happening to all of my clients in the process, because everything goes wrong in a real estate transaction. Oh God, this is terrible. And I would just express empathy and be honest and go, if you feel bad, I feel bad too. I understand how you're feeling. And that went a long way. And then you get referrals and then people trust you and it grows from there.
Yeah, it's the nucleus, I think, of just staying true to who you are, right? And you made that decision early on. That's kind of how you were going to lead your business, and I think that's definitely a win. The mind shift, I think, was huge. When you referenced that, where you kind of just shift on your focus. It's not you, it's them. What do they need? And I think we always talk about be the turtle, not the hare. That definitely allows you to be, the tortoise in this business. There's someone who's going to stay consistent and continue to do and rise above when the market is really good and or if the market's really bad. So I think that's a win. Yeah,
I was really super impressed, as you know, Judson, when I heard the story, and I'd love for you to share it here, about the for sale by owner, I think it was, that you were calling and you talked him out of listing with you.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought that took some kahunas, dude.
This is my classic sales strategy of telling people not to work with me. This is what I mean. I don't think this, honestly, I don't think a lot of this advice is maybe universally applicable, but it has worked for me.
Sure. But here's where I want you to talk about it, because for multiple reasons, but one of them is because, again, I think you did exactly what you just described. It wasn't about you. It wasn't about your stats. It wasn't about your numbers. It was about being honest and being an advocate to a consumer that recognized that caused you to be different.
Right.
In a crowded world.
And this was not the first time I had done this, so it doesn't always work like this, but you're doing calls for sale by owners and you kind of give them your rundown and they give you their rundown. And this guy was generous enough to tell me what the actual situation was, and I got a little bit of time with him on the phone. And usually my brain would go, all right, we're making a connection here. We're going to close this thing. But I was listening to his word. I did the rare thing most agents don't do. I was actually listening to him. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this guy needs to list this. I think he's got a situation that's going to work out. I'm not going to add any value in this transaction. So I told him, I said, look, as much as I'd love to list your house and do all this stuff, I think you just need to do plan A that you already have set up here. And, I'd love to work with you down the line, and here's all my info, and da-da-da-da-da. And he said, thanks. All right, great. 2 months go by.
What did you think about yourself at that moment? Did you just say, well, that was stupid, or did you have a conviction, a conviction about this is the right thing to do, or is it you didn't maybe go that far with the thought? I don't know.
I'm doing that so often where I'll just tell people, you don't need to work with me. So it was kind of just like another one of those, well, we'll see, that didn't work out, but usually it doesn't work out. So you're like, yeah, that's just how it goes.
Right.
So I didn't think one way or the other about it. I didn't even follow up with him. That's how bad I was at this. I wasn't like, let's call and see how it worked out. I'm not a hero here. So he called me 2 months later and was like, hey, my son's doing some stuff, and I thought you could help him out. And this gentleman ended up being a very important piece of my business. And I do think it helps if you come at every single opportunity with that, okay, if I was in their shoes, how would I want someone to be taking care of me?
Right.
That it just seems obvious a little bit when you say it, but in our bubble, you get really focused on, I got to produce these numbers, I got to do this, I got to hit these goals, or I got to, whatever, pay my rent or whatever you're doing. You get knocked out of it fast, and I'm the first one who'll get knocked out of it, and then I can feel myself not doing good. If I'm thinking about me when I'm on the phone, it doesn't ever go good. So I'm not good enough at sales to be able to do it wrong. I have to do it from that perspective, because I don't have whatever the background is that a lot of people have, where they can just sales it out. I don't have it.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about that particular client. I don't remember. Would you mind divulging as to, okay, that one conversation, what that grew into?
I mean, tons of stuff. And that
Have
type
you ever
of
measured
thing,
it?
Yeah. I mean, without trying to commodify my clients too much, but 7 figures of business easily, a lot of, more than that. Yeah. Lots of business.
Yeah.
But that happens, I'm telling you, all the time. Usually it's the ones where I'm like, okay, I'm out of it now. I'm taking myself out of it and going, okay, we're obviously not working together. But, I do, this restaurant's really good. I know in your neighborhood, and we're just getting on something else. They'll give you a call, they'll give you a text and be like, hey, this didn't work out, or my agent stinks and I fired him, and what do you do?
You found something you could connect on.
Yeah. You just try to be a real person.
Yeah.
Which isn't easy. It takes a lot of practice. For me, it does. To be
Again,
real.
you can't went from a professional non-speaker to a professional speaker now to human beings and hearts.
I think just being real, though, is key, right? I mean, a lot of people call me up and say this lender, right? And so sometimes I just call the lender and walk them through how to do it, because it makes it more sense. I mean, I know what they need to do. It's 2 buttons. It's easy. It's the right thing to do, right? I think you're raised to do the right thing. If your core beliefs is to always do the right thing, you do that.
Yep.
And we are the ones that will stay and stand through this long career, that they call real estate. So I think the people that have been doing it, like yourself, 30 plus years, right? And there's 40 plus
December.
Years. Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Let's have another party. Every December it seems we celebrate, Monty. Another birthday, another year in
Most
real
of the people
estate.
I work with, I tell them, look, I've been doing this longer than you've been on the planet.
Yes,
So-
too funny. But if you talk to those folks, right, it really comes down to just doing the right thing. I think you can also be driven. I think you can be hungry. You can still have that fire, right, and still have all of that, because that's my personality. Being
Right.
a singer, so I was talking, right, and so that is my personality to be out. That doesn't make one right, one wrong, but I do think both of us, the core, and I think the 3 is leading with our hearts, right, leading with what's right, and always doing what's right.
Coming from a place of contribution.
Yeah, like
not
today,
survival.
their loan called, and I know would make more sense for him to be with my specific banker, because it was more of a bank type of loan. Yes, make the connection, and they're going to love you forever,
Right.
on that. And eventually they'll have a mortgage type of need, and so you just continue to be the connector, I think, in all things. And I think that's wonderful. What ignited your thought to create a monthly email?
I was writing, this is embarrassing, I was writing a recap for our fantasy football league. And I was spending entirely too much time on that. And it was way too good to be wasted on 12 people. And so I thought, okay, I need
Incorporate this.
I need to do this in actually my money-making area of my life. And as soon as I started doing that, it was incredibly well received. I was very grateful. And it's a fun outlet for me. It's fun to be creative. And it does keep you connected in an authentic way. It's hard to do that.
Is it a story, like when you talk about fantasy football recapping, like are we going down the I don't know how, I don't even understand all of that, but.
Well, he gives you stats. He gives you personality, gives you some humor.
I see. Okay.
You know?
As
It's an
in, like, the
opportunity for me to make
listings.
jokes.
Yeah.
Mostly. That's mostly what I'm doing.
Have you been a comedian before, you like from your younger, you were always the jokester? Were you the class clown in high school? is
No,
the question.
I wasn't the class clown. But this is very close to a bit from The Office. I wasn't the class clown, but I was friends with the class clown.
Okay. See? Yeah. You're
So,
close enough.
I was close. Yeah,
Yeah.
I rubbed elbows
There you
exactly
go.
with the class clown. Learned a lot.
There you go. Too funny. I do think, I mean, it's such a stressful world we're in. You know, I'm blind in one eye because of the level of stress. You do have to wake up finding some sort of comic relief, you know, with what it is, even if it's about yourself, you know, and clearly this would happen. You know, I leave and the rates drop down, so I think I should go on vacation all the time for everybody's sake.
I think you should too.
I think
Sounds like
it sounds like that's what
It's
needs
settled.
to happen. I'm out of here. Too funny. But being, you know, I always talked about purchase centric. I was a purchase centric mortgage lender for years, and that kept me afloat when the rates rose, because I always didn't focus on the refinances, where that was easy for somebody, right?
Sure.
Kind of being very client centric is so key. You know, people talk about it, but there's a different levels of that. And it sounds like you very much are all about the value add, the right thing to do within the with the client.
What are some of those value adds when it comes to your business?
Well, and I think I get just a totally different take on it than what most people are thinking from a value add.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, when I'm doing something that's hard or difficult or new, the way I feel is usually very unsafe, no matter what it is. And if I'm getting guidance from someone, all I want is to feel safe. And it, you know, the word safe feels like, oh, danger. Not really, but it can feel like that especially in a big purchase like this. So if I can identify what does this person in front of me need to feel safe in the transaction, getting that information quickly, and they'll give it to you. They'll tell you all sorts of things that seem like, what are you talking about? You know, they're talking about their grandma is sick and all this stuff. But that's not usually what it's about. Usually it's about some deeper anxiety that's attached to doing something that's hard or difficult or new. And what I used to do is I used to mirror that anxiety. So yeah, you're right. I hear you. This is so stressful. But what I try to work toward doing is, without rejecting their feelings, to say, I acknowledge those feelings, and we have this and this and this information. And this is where I've tried to make a leap in my personal life and in my business, is to go, okay, instead of spending my time anxiously trying to foresee every problem that will happen, because I was good at that. I could pour hours into foreseeing problems that could happen. So go, all right, I have the confidence that I'm going to be able to solve these problems in real time. I have the experience that I'm able to solve these problems in real time. If you come at your transaction with that energy, oh my goodness, the clients go, okay, well, this guy's, we'll figure it out. They'll reflect that back to you. He's going to figure it out. And if you actually believe that, it takes a minute to believe that. So it took me a while, because I used to be like, this could fall apart at any minute, you know. But now I think I do genuinely believe in most circumstances. If something's going to fail, like truly fail, like this is going to fall apart, it will be after we've exhausted every reasonable option. So I don't feel as attached to the failure of that. You know, it's, I failed them. I would take it really hard. But no, it's like, okay, there are some things that are out of your control. When it comes up, you're going to do everything you know to do, and you're going to do the right thing. And so I don't have that anxiety, and I'm not mirroring their anxiety, and we're not getting in this anxious spiral. We can kind of keep it, okay, it's safe. I'm going to take care of you. And again, it's like they just wrap themselves around you, because then they're texting me and calling me months later about stuff that has nothing to do with real estate, because now I'm a person they feel safe with.
Yeah, love that.
Can you help me? I'm buying a new car. What do you think I should do? Just anything that's adjacent to anything in life. They'll say, this is someone I'm safe with. And I'm happy to do that. That means I know I did a good job.
Yeah.
That is huge.
That is amazing.
That's a big deal.
There's a difference between, or two different types of confidences, right? One that's with ego driven, you know, and one that you can feel it in the room that they will. They know things. They have the experience, right? They know, and they're going to do the right thing. So
having that authority, I think he's talking about building authority in the minds of his circle, and that's a huge deal. First of all, coming from a place of contribution, what's best for them, not what's best for your numbers, but coming as a problem solver, and whatever the problem is, we can probably overcome that, and having that confidence, I think that's a big deal. Carey Ann, you do that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it comes with...
It didn't come overnight, but when you got more experience, you knew the solution. So most people don't know.
Is key, but the experience comes with doing this business, right? The scenarios of Michael and John and Sue and, Carol, like the storyline continues. And then hey, how you got through that problem with this last client, and I can already pave the way for you, and make the experience one that it can be as smooth as it can be, right? And or you can already say, hey, we're about to walk into some bumpy territory, and let's already think 2 steps ahead, on that, and what is that going to look like? When it comes to interest rates, that's a big discussion right now where it causes a lot of anxiety for some folks. They want a house, but they don't know how to get the payment into that comfortable zone, that can create comfort and confidence, even an affordability, aspect of it. And so how do we navigate, and walk them through that? And I do think it takes slowing down, and the education become, you've got another amazing, real estate agent, part of your family that focuses on being that teacher, right? And leading with education. I think that's what we do too,
and that's exactly right. If you don't have that, if you're at the point in your business where that doesn't sound like me yet, find a Monte, find somebody, because that was the thing that made my decision so easy to go from where I was to where I am in terms of brokerages. I was like, okay, this guy's got that. And I couldn't put my finger on it at the time, but it was, okay, we're going to figure it out. We'll do something and figure it out. That is invaluable. And then if you don't have it, attach yourself to somebody who does. And then you slowly get it, right? And then you can, maybe you give it to somebody else. Maybe you keep it for yourself. Yeah,
I mean, going even back to, it's interesting, like even your previous world of dancing, when you dance with another, it's awkward possibly at the beginning, right? And then all of a sudden it becomes smoother and smoother and smoother, right? It's just the same concept of doing over and over and over again. And then, practicing. I mean, this is a craft, right? I mean, we are doing, and you should practice it. You should be prepared for any opportunity that crosses your path, whether that is somebody with a lot of emotion, a lot of anxiety, a lot of loudness. However, that's a different word for anger. We see it all within this business, right? But how can you?
And those are just the agents.
Yeah, yeah. But I think waking up and reminding yourself why you got in this business was not just to make a dollar, right? It was to truly make a difference. That's. I mean, people say that in this kind of, what did they say, cliche or whatever. But when you start to lead with just solving problems daily, right? And now for me, it started becoming like a fun game where, okay, how quickly can I solve your problem? Right. How cost efficiently can I solve your problem? Like it becomes, this thing where you're leveling up, over and over and over again, which makes it a win, for the consumer, and the particular client. I love that. So you do your connection, you do your email. You talked about some negotiations and things. What was that?
Well, first of all, again, back to the value add. I don't think I've heard anybody articulate what you did today. When it comes, I mean, we hear about value add all the time. It could be, you get 15% off at Home Depot or whatever. I mean, people, I think, go there
right
when it comes to value add.
Oh, sure, like a discount.
Rather than being the problem solver, rather than being the comforter to some degree, rather than being the advocate, being the guide who's going to get them through the jungle of monsters that they don't know about because he knows about them. I love that, and I feel like I think that's one of the reasons why I love this so much is because that's what I feel like. That's what I try to do as the broker of this company.
Right.
Is I know I'll be okay because I've got 39 and a half years of momentum behind me, but the ones I'm concerned about are our agents and assuring them, look, it's going to be okay. It's a sad thing for some agents. They're going to get out of the business, but it's going to be okay. We're going to maneuver through here. We're going to, maybe use different tools or different concepts, different ideas. We're going to, sometimes I send out stuff just to encourage the person's heart, knowing that if they're strong here, they can win the battle here, this kind of thing. But I love that, Judson. I love that. So what is, when you think negotiating, let's talk about that topic for a minute.
Well, this is something that I was very into when I first got in the business. I'm reading, Never Split the Difference. I'm doing all this. I'm going to be the greatest negotiator on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And then you get in the transaction, you're like, it's really not up to me so much usually ever these things, because the value can be affected by a billion different things outside your control. But, and this isn't to diminish, you're going to negotiate for $5,000 here or $10,000 on something, but what I've found to be the most important negotiation is the negotiation between, are we getting these two parties opposed to each other, or are we getting these two parties pulling in the same direction? And the transactions, as you know, when the two parties are opposed to each other, it degrades the value of every single point in the process so much it can ruin the whole transaction. And what is that worth? What is the monetary value on that? To have everything ground to a halt. It makes everything so difficult. So what I try to encourage my clients to do is, and different clients come at this in different ways, because you have clients sometimes who are almost excited to be somewhat adversarial with the other side.
And they see fun in that.
That's part of it for them.
Yeah, depending on the market. Who's the lead dog there?
Yeah, exactly. It can be a little bit of like, this is my opportunity to flex these muscles, and I get that.
Pound the chest.
It's a little bit the impetus of how I was starting. This is going to be a great opportunity to negotiate. I'm going to squeeze value here and all this stuff. So getting those clients in particular on board with the idea that it's going to be so much better for you if they like you. That's more than anything. We want them to like you, and if somebody feels disrespected is the biggest one for me. If somebody feels that feeling of, you've disrespected me, besmirched me, it's over. Like, it is over. Even if you close it, you didn't get your best deal for sure. Because there's so many points where you need the other people. So, well, you know what? You didn't get to go measure for your washer and dryer because it's like,
because of your behavior.
And so if I can get us in that mindset of, okay, we're pulling in the same direction. Now, we want to get a fair value, and we want to, at every opportunity, be advocating for our value 100%. But more important than that, we're all working toward the same outcome, because it can turn so fast. And you see it too, where it feels like we've got all the leverage in this. And then it's like, there was an error on my 2022 taxes, and all of a sudden I'm not qualifying for the same. And it's like, okay,
right.
We need them to give us $8,000 in closing costs, 10 days before we close. So those type of things, massive value available. There's only so much you can do inside of a transaction where both parties are somewhat aware of market value. I mean, you see transactions where one party doesn't understand what's going on and somebody gets fleeced, and I mean, you see people trying to do it all the time, but that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to have both people represented, and we're working toward a fair transaction.
A win-win.
Yeah, a win-win. So that would be a big area, I think, is, and especially if we're talking to agents, like, I want every agent to be thinking like that too, because you do get an agent every once in a while who's not necessarily thinking like that, and it's not as much fun.
Well, I mean, we live in a very, very multicultural world, especially in Nashville, every day more so. And fortunately or unfortunately, there are some cultures that, people are not. Everything is negotiated in their world. Everything is, and they come to this country and not think anything about, grinding. And, I've tried to share with some of these folks, we have 22 languages spoken in our company, so we are very multicultural. But if it's not a win-win, if it's leaning too strong on one side, and you need a favor because, like you just said, suddenly there's a delay or they need something. A real quick story. I had a listing, young couple, first house into this country. The clients, my sellers met them, fell in love with them. They were going to give them half of their furniture in their house.
Wow.
And I mean, because they were downsizing dramatically and they didn't need all their stuff. But the last 2 weeks of that transaction were so brutal, just grinding and grinding and grinding. And then to cap it all off, when they took their washer and dryer out of the house, oh my God, I'm not closing on this house until this room is painted, because they painted down to the washer and dryer. They made monster thing out of this. And at the closing, I said, well, folks, how did you want to handle the furniture and stuff? He goes, we'll burn that before we give it to them. We will burn everything we promised before we give it to them, because we're so distraught over the situation. And people lose sight of that. I always try to say, look, I know Judson, I know you're representing your side. I'm representing mine. And we're going to be professional in that process. But let's do this as well. Let's rise above that responsibility, and let's work for the integrity of the transaction, so that everybody walks away feeling like a winner to some degree. Again, we're going to protect our interest. But if you're trying to get some blood out of that, it's going to come back and bite you.
100%. 100%.
So, I love the fact that you believe the same thing.
We
on that
see
topic.
that in the lending side too, where it's just a very simple solution to fix this problem. I'm not sure why we are where we are today, right? Meaning we can easily fix that. And if I need to step in to fix it, I can help, and do that. Sometimes it's over such a minor dollar figure too.
Right.
It's and if you think about, do you want this house, buyer? Yes, I do. Do you want to sell this home? Yes, I do, seller, right?
Yep.
And so agents, that was 30 days worth of work. We're not going to lose that over, something, right? And then if we start again, that means we have to start with new interest rates, and we have to, there's a bigger story. I do think sometimes we get closed-minded on the small thing, right? And there's a bigger play there. So that comes back to what you were talking about with the experience, and the confidence to know that no matter what and how big the challenge may be, or the obstacle, may be, we can work through that if we have the right goal, in hand. So I love what you were talking too about kind of changing your mindset on how you wanted to do business. We remind a lot of people out there, what got us here won't get us there. So, even for me being successful within my career.
I'm reading that book now, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through it. It's a great book.
Yeah,
it's one of those books you take your time with because you don't want it to get over with. This guy's got some wisdom.
And it's so true, right? So if you're waking up and you're listening to this and you say, well, I want to be better tomorrow. I want to have a different type of career. My career changed 10 years ago. I had a whole different mindset on how I was going to do. I was going to lead with value. I wasn't going to, be one transaction. Right. I was going to provide more and more and more. And it is okay if somebody comes and eats my food and drinks my drinks and never sends me a transaction, because that's their choice. That's what they think is the right thing to do. Has nothing to do with me. I'm going to continue to lead and provide to real estate agents. So huge. I love that, and you can wake up and decide that you're going to be different, and start writing the email, right? If you wanted to do that, create more humor, be more consumer centric, or client centric. So I love that. Good stuff.
Next time he sends one out, I'm going to forward it to you so you see what I'm talking about. I've asked him now twice, hey man, do you mind if I send this out to the rest of the family of professionals? Because as an example of what we all want to strive to be, and that's a good communicator, but not just to the head, but to the heart. I think the kids help in that. The pictures of the kids, of course, and the humor about yourself. And anyhow, it keeps, like I shared with everybody this last time that you sent one out, that it not only keeps people informed, but it keeps people entertained to the point they're looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, that's the key.
Looking forward to the next time. For 2 years in a row, 104 weeks in a row, I wrote for the Tennessean back when the paper was a thing. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But every week I had to write an article of 450 words that would bring people back again, want people to look at it again. So I understand that pressure.
And it's interesting because there's a version of social media, right? You welcome them into your world and they get to, understand all the things. You need to figure out who your audience is, right? So for my audience, I'm open I'm an open book, on social media, because it's the real estate agents, right? I want them to know that I'm driven, that I'm a mom, I'm trying to, work out at 46, all the things. I think you can bring that to a consumer basis too, which I love. So I'm snagging the idea because I think it's great, because they should see not just a strong businesswoman, they should see all the other sides too, of
I could
us.
see you creating a newsletter like Judson has done. Maybe sneak some ideas from him.
Yeah. Hey, the best ideas are stolen ideas, my friend.
One of the quick questions
So,
I wanted to ask here, Judson, is how do you differentiate between a service provider and an entrepreneur?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was talking at the beginning. For me, it's my mindset. And when I'm in entrepreneur mindset, I'm not doing good.
Gotcha.
And that is different for a lot of people.
Gotcha.
It took me a long time to figure out that is not the mindset I need to be in. You need to be crafty in that area.
It's your business.
Yeah. Excuse me. Maybe this is wrong.
No,
maybe
that's right. That's right.
I'm being overcome here. No, when I'm doing my best is when I'm in service provider mode. And so if I can get into that mindset, that means I'm doing the right thing. And I've had to sort of come to grips with the fact that there is a level you can get to in this business that is really tailored toward the entrepreneurial mindset. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, is that something I need to learn? Is that something I want to do?
Yeah.
Is that a day I want, like when I get up in the morning, what do I want to be thinking about? And there are agents who are at a level where when they get up in the morning, the first thing they think about is the business, the running of the business. The first thing I think about in the morning is the details of the services I'm providing for the people I'm working with. And it's a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Can you say that one more time, that last part?
Well, so if there's some agents, when you get to a level where the first thing they think about,
because this is so true,
is the workings of the business that they're running. And there are certain agents that they wake up and the first thing they think about is the services they're providing to the clients they're working with. If I'm working with an agent as a consumer, I want a service provider agent. Maybe other people don't. That's what I would want. That is what I do best. And so that is where I feel like I am. And I don't want to use the word stuck, but I do feel like I am positioned there.
Sure. I think if you go back to when you dance the best you've ever danced, right? You're in that move and the groove or whatever.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, and you feel. Yeah, I got it, because I know what it feels like when you're in that groove, and I'm like, whoa, it's going. When I'm on stage, you can see it, right? Like you can see how fun when I'm at events, and I'm super joyful. Also, when I'm solving a problem on a transaction, it makes me really level up to want to do this tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. I do think there's a nice combo because, again, you're working towards structuring something that'll last a super long time.
Yep.
And so going back to somebody taught the entertainment world, right? You're on stage and then you're working on the business, right? You're on stage. So when you're on stage, you're in that service mode, right? You're feeling it. You've got the flow. You're doing what, brings you the most joy. You work in the crowd or the grocery store, right? Like, meaning you're providing all the goodness, and you see that people are connecting with you in a way that is such a win, right? You can see it in their eyes and they're excited, et cetera. And then maybe a couple days a week, you putting structure around, I'm putting this much money over here and I'm, going to, plan for appreciation functions, right? That kind of work in the business piece too. I think when you put the two in place and it's a nice balance, I think that makes it even a bigger win, and there's nothing stopping you from even getting there. And you possibly do that. I think you and I just like to be, I think you like it too, where, running a business is, not the fun part of the business.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
but for some people it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you bump it, and it was like that's great for those people.
Well, and I think it goes back to the disc, right? So, are you a D, or you an I, or you an S or C?
I think if I had to err on one side or the other, though, I think that coming from the heart and with a servant's mind, to me, honestly, and maybe it's because it's how I believe, but I really believe those who have a servant heart, who come at this as a true service and a blessing and an honor to be able to earn the trust of one of their largest investments. To me, that's the biggest part of the whole experience, I think. And
you can see the heart in maybe your email versus something I receive in the mail that was just stuffed in an envelope,
Right.
right? There's a difference of that
It's very
connection.
personal. I'm going to send you
right.
the next one, and I'll send you.
Yeah, and I think we lead with that personalized touch. I also think it's a win for you to get the referrals from others, right? So then it just kind of, builds from there. I think that's a win for sure. So love all that.
Judson Veach, it's been an awesome honor to have you here,
Yeah.
brother. I
Thanks for
that
having me.
So glad
sincerely.
you came.
Well, how does somebody email you if they wanted to?
It's my first and last name, Judson Veach, at judsonveachhomes.com.
Wow,
And
that's
Veach
easy
is
enough.
Veach.
It is.
And it's Judson with a D, right?
Judson.
Awesome.
It's a weird name.
And the last question, are the girls ballerinas? Your daughters?
I have one daughter, and
One
not
daughter.
yet.
Not yet.
So far, I'm winning that battle.
And
keep
is
it
your
that
wife
way.
still a ballerina?
She takes class, but now she's a therapist,
Oh, I love that.
which
I
we
love
all
that.
need that in our house.
We do.
Wow,
Hey,
we
we
do.
all need a good therapist for sure. Well, thank you
Thank
again,
you, Judson.
Judson.
Really, truly
Thank you,
appreciate it.
everybody,
Thank you.
for joining us. Can't wait to have you come back. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.